What's wrong with the NBA dunk contest and how to fix it? I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
Watch this. Blank for no song pull up. If we on in the ear or the pistol up. That song you rougher than any Bristol brush. So the trigger finger work till it blister up. Upper echelon, we a top caliber. Fresher than a Evian, very spectacular. Tell them they not touch it down, never pop caliber. Tougher than a Teflon, we no bust nothing regular.
So as I record this is the week after the 2023 NBA All-Star Weekend, which for Michigan means don't be confused by the sun. It's still, we're still deep in the control of winter, but now, spring is starting to be on the horizon. So we're going to transition from the beginning of the year, talking about getting in shape, losing weight, those kinds of videos, to more basketball-centric videos. We're not quite to the point where we're talking about specifically what you should do on the basketball court yet, because spring isn't here yet, but at least we're getting into more basketball-centric video topics. So today we're talking about what is the problem, the ongoing recurrent problem for the NBA dunk contest, and how we should fix it. So let's start with what the problem with the dunk contest is. I don't know how long this has been going on for, but it feels like it's been a decade plus at least. Every Monday after the All-Star break, the same question is always raised. And that question is raised despite if the contest is amazing or if it was trash like it was in 2022. That question is, where are the NBA All-Stars? Where's the NBA Superstars, the MVP candidates? How come they are not in the dunk contest? If the dunk contest is so important to the NBA, how come the best, most recognizable players are not in the dunk contest? And this question drives me crazy because there's an obvious answer, but the problem is that y'all, those of you who are asking this question seriously, y'all are adhering to these impossible standards and expectations that were set 30 years ago. In 1995, Michael Jordan loses the dunk contest to Dominique Wilkins. And then the next 2 years, Michael Jordan wins the dunk contest, meaning for those years, he was the best dunker in the league, and he was probably, at the same time, in that same year, simultaneously the best player in the league. That happened with one player 30 years ago. But since then, every Monday after the dunk contest, it doesn't matter if it's great or if it's pathetic, y'all always ask, where are the NBA All-Stars, the Superstars, the MVP candidates? How come if the dunk contest is that important, how come the best, most notable players are not in the contest? The answer obviously being because just because they're the best players or the most recognizable players doesn't inherently mean they are also the best dunkers. And if that ever happened, if we as the fans, when we vote for the All-Stars, if we only vote for the players that dunk the best to be the All-Stars, that would be a sad state of affairs for basketball in the NBA. Because theoretically, the All-Stars should be the best players in the league. And ideally, those players should also be on the best, most successful teams that year as well. There, of course, is exceptions for like great players being on terrible teams like Dame playing for Portland, but for the most part, you would want to have the best players who have had the most success that season and potentially for the rest of the season. But those players are probably not going to be amazing dunkers as well as being as successful as they are. I don't want to see Giannis or Joel Embiid or Stephen Curry in the dunk contest just because they're the best players in the NBA, the most recognizable names, the biggest superstars. Just because their names are notable and thus relatable does not mean they should be in the dunk contest. But y'all narrow-mindedly think that if you don't know their name, they shouldn't be in the contest, or only the players that we know their name, thus we relate to them because we think we know them, then they should be the players in the dunk contest. That's a huge, major problem. It's very reminiscent of what's been happening in society in the last 10 plus years. For example, I live in Michigan. So when you think about like Detroit, just for an example, I'm not saying this happens specifically in Detroit over whatever amount of time span, but just as an example, what has been happening is for the city officials, like the people that you elect to be in power, right? Detroit is stereotypically a black city. And so the societal mistake that some of us have occasionally been making is because Detroit is a notoriously black city, that all of the public officials should also be black. That way the black constituents can then relate to the black city officials. So all the city officials need to look like you. They need to grow up where you grew up. Otherwise, they shouldn't be in those positions of power because you don't relate to them. But say, for example, in an election year, if you have a mediocre candidate who happens to be black, a black guy, but then say just for that year, a much better candidate just happens to be a Chaldean woman. But instead of voting for the candidate who's much more qualified that electoral season, that cycle, instead of voting for her, you don't vote for her because you don't relate to her, you don't identify with her because she's Chaldean and you're not. She's a woman and you're not. But you are a black guy, and even though you know the candidate who's a black guy is much less qualified for the mayoral position, you vote for him just because he looks like you and he came from where you came from. Do you see how mistakenly narrow-minded that is? It's the same thing with the dunk contest. Just because you recognize a superstar's name doesn't mean that they're going to be a good dunker. Instead, just whatever it is, the position you're trying to fill, whatever it is, just have the best candidate for the job do that job. But that's the problem. The problem is y'all need to relate. You need to identify with the person you see in power or on the screen. If y'all can't identify with the person, if you can't easily relate to that person, then that person shouldn't be in that position. That's the problem. So now that we've established what the root of the problem is, let's talk about how we can actually go about fixing it. So the most straightforward resolution to this problem is just for y'all to change your perspective, your mindset, to decide that it doesn't matter who's in the dunk contest if we don't know who they are, if we don't know their names, if we don't recognize them, if we don't relate to them or identify with them. The most important thing should be, are they the best candidates for that competition? The sooner y'all broaden your minds to just let the best person for the job attempt to do the job, if that's what we're looking for, that's what's going to solve the problem right now. Think about it from the superstars perspective, right? If you're an NBA superstar, why would you want to be in a modern day dunk contest? Because for them, being in the dunk contest is probably a lose-lose situation. If they enter the dunk contest and they lose, well, now they have to deal with social media, being ridiculed and shamed on social media. Now, nobody should take social media that seriously. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but that's just the way it is for this generation of players. They live and die with social media. So if they enter the contest and they lose, now they have to put up with a world of hurt on social media. They're not going to do that. They don't want to do that. And even if they win, well, just because there's NBA superstars, notable MVP-like candidates, does not mean that they're going to be great dunkers. They're probably just going to be mediocre dunkers. And if they enter the contest and win doing mediocre dunks, well then us as fans and the media is just going to say, yeah, X, Y, and Z NBA superstar won the contest, but it was super boring and thus super forgettable because he's just a mediocre dunker. That's a lose for that NBA superstar as well. So instead, let's just find the best dunkers that are going to put on the best show and the best competition. And since the NBA claims that NBA All-Star Saturday Night and the weekend and the dunk contest is so important for them, like that's their big opportunity throughout the year to try to bring in casual sports fans over to the NBA and make them hardcore NBA fans. Since it's so important to the NBA, then how about the NBA spends the time and the money to form a committee that its sole purpose is to scour the NBA for the best dunkers, regardless of who and what their names are. It shouldn't matter if we know them or not. The only criteria should be, are they actual NBA players with actual NBA contracts? And so like in this year's dunk contest, Mac McCollum, he won the dunk contest and he was only on like a very short term, like temporary contract. Like that's fine. I'm fine with that. But what I want to avoid is like, the NBA going out into the streets and just finding like dunking mercenaries that are not NBA quality players, but you know, they give them like a 10-day contract with whatever team and bring them in for the dunk contest, and then after the dunk contest they have no notable NBA career at all. I don't want dunking mercenaries, I want actual NBA players. So pay the money, spend the time to form a dunk finding committee, and then have that committee find the best dunkers in the NBA for that season, and then figure out how to form and construct a contest that would showcase their dunking abilities to their max potential. And just do that every year. Have that committee every year find the best dunkers. If it's different dunkers every year, that's fine. If it's the same dunkers every year, that's fine. The main concern should be who's the best, who's gonna put on the best show, and how can we construct a dunk contest in a way that showcases their abilities the best. That's all that should matter. Who is the best dunker? How can we showcase them the best year after year? And lastly, we as fans, we should just have more realistic expectations in that the dunk contest should always be the main event for NBA All-Star Weekend, because anybody can come out to the park and just start throwing up three-point shots, or anybody can run the skills drills that they run, you know, earlier in the night in the NBA All-Star Saturday night. But very few people can actually dunk. Like the average basketball player probably can't dunk, right? So dunking is always going to be that rare ability in basketball that only a chosen few who have that athletic ability can do. So the dunk contest should always be the main event. I don't care about this whole idea of like, oh, this generation's players, they're three-point shooters, so this generation, the main event should be the three-point shooting contest. Nope, it should not be. Anybody can shoot a three, anybody can miss a three, but not everybody can go up and touch the backboard or the rim. So keep the dunk contest the main competition, and then us as fans just have realistic expectations that not every year can the dunk contest be amazing. The fact of the matter is, the majority of the time it's probably going to be just mediocre. Even with that special committee that goes out and finds, you know, the best dunkers, like if that happened, theoretically, because we're getting the best dunkers every year, they're going to set a standard, right, that we then expect every year. And if at any time, any year, that field of competitors or, you know, whatever, they don't quite live up to that high standard that's probably going to be set, then that dunk contest is probably just going to be, or at least seem and feel, mediocre. That's why when you have the rare great competition, right, the whole field is great and they're all putting up amazing dunks, or even in the case where like you have like one outstanding dunker in a competition, that's why we should appreciate and be thankful and grateful when those circumstances happen, because that is the minority, that's the exception to the rule. Because to this point the bar has been set so high, you know, Michael and then Vince and then the great dunkers here and there throughout the dunk history, they've set the bar so high that now it's just a matter of fact that the majority of the dunk contests are going to be more mediocre than they are great. So we should adjust our expectations and be grateful when there is a great performance put on. But what we shouldn't do is, even after great dunk competitions, we shouldn't be like,
yeah, but we're the NBA All-Stars. Because it was a great competition, but I still want to see the NBA superstars in the contest.
If that's what we do after every competition, even the great ones, then why would anybody want to participate in the dunk contest? If we're going to criticize the contest and the contestants, no matter what they do, no matter how great they are, if we're just going to continually, recurrently just criticize the contest every year, even when it's great, then why would anybody even want to be in the dunk contest? So find the best dunkers in a given year who will put on the best performance in a dunk contest, and just have the best ones be in the contest. It doesn't matter if we don't know their names. In fact, it's probably better that we don't, because those players are probably going to want to be in the dunk contest to make a name for themselves. We should look for players who not only can they dunk amazingly well, but they want to be in the dunk contest. They're hungry for it because they want to make a name for themselves. That's the kind of players we should want in the dunk contest. Why should the NBA superstars want to be in the dunk contest? They're already popular. We already know their name. It's a lose-lose situation for those players. So instead, let's find the great dunkers who are hungry to be in the dunk contest. Put on a great show so that we remember their names. If we do that, that is the best way to, guarantee that we get the best performance every year. Even if it's not amazing every year, at least we're getting the best possible contest we can every year. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you didn't like this video, if you agree, if you disagree, then let me know down in the comments. Comment on this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think we could do to make the dunk contest better year after year. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you hit that thanks button down below. When you do that, when you comment, that thanks button is going to make sure all of your comments down below are highlighted so they stand out. Also, when you hit that thanks button, it directly supports the channel. So for anybody that does that, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment like I said. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any of my videos go live on this channel. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.
Everything we do, you know, we think shot blow. Hear a little bit, them self drop that low. Full of style like Milan runways. When the dog touch the road, no, we guns don't